Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to tell you a scary story. It's based on a true story of when I was actually really young and I grew up on the reservation. This happened out in Standing Rock, New Mexico. So this story really talks about skinwalkers. A lot of people are not aware of shapeshifters. They do exist. Yes, they do. It's pretty raw. From what people hear and from when it's really happening around you, it's a huge difference. So I must have been 8 years old when I first encountered the first skinwalker around my grandparents' house. So my grandparents were medicine people. My grandfather was Gilbert Hildreth Sr. He was actually a medicine man. My grandmother was a healer. They grew corn. They butchered sheep. They made their own paints. They were pretty wise, Grew up with our own language, Dene, Navajo. So what had happened when I was 8 years old was my grandfather had went away on a meeting to Steamboat, Arizona. When all this was happening, my grandmother stayed behind with us. And it was just my sister and I. We were home. It was just with my grandma. It must have been past 11. My sister was 7 years old. So the dogs were barking outside. My sister and I woke up. We didn't know what was going on. We were like, the dogs were just really loud. So that's what woke us up. I think my grandma might have heard it, but she didn't pay no attention. But we're kids, so we're curious, right? Every kid is curious. What kid is not curious? Seriously. So what happened next was we felt this really shaking feeling, like when we were laying there in the living room, because there's this huge queen size bed. My grandma has like a 4-bedroom house, and we're just staying in the living room because we don't want to be in the rooms alone. She stayed in the living room too, with her own bed, of course. And we stayed by this really big window. So there was curtains, it was closing the window. And I just remember that every night my grandparents would put this axe against the door by the handle. So you would know if the door handle was moving. Yeah, it's a scary thing when you know that your grandparents are putting something on the door handle so that way something can't get in. And you're in your mind as a kid, you're wondering, why they're putting that. Why when you're at home, with your mother or father, they don't put something in front of the door. Well, my grandparents did. They put something in front of the door to ensure them that nothing was going to get in. So that kind of made my sister and I think when we were really young, and growing up with traditional grandparents, they obviously know a lot about these types of, skinwalkers and this culture that, a lot of people are not brought up in. They're all growing up in cities. They don't understand what it's like to live on the reservation with people who have education and practices of our culture. So that night, my sister grew some nerve. I told her not to go to the window, but she just had this urging feeling. She was like, I want to go to that window. And I was like, no, don't go. And it was scary because I knew something was wrong. Like, it was scary and I felt it. And I was actually just right behind her. I was crawling behind her because, hello, I'm the older sister, so I have to be there. She opened that curtain and it was just terrifying what we saw at that window. We saw a painted face. And there was a dead wolf over this man's head. I don't even know if it was a man or a woman. But, it looked the same to us. Like, we couldn't tell. It's just eyes were really red. It was really terrifying. Like, it was so terrifying to where we froze. We froze and that thing was looking at us. I don't know what it was doing, but it was staring at my sister and I. And that night, I'm never going to forget. My grandma got up. And the dogs, they never stopped barking. My grandma got up. She started putting up cedar. She opened the stove. And how they take out the charcoal. They throw the cedar on there and they start praying. And Dene, and all that stuff happened all at once. And it didn't stop there. You know, there's more events that happen throughout the years that I grew up with my grandparents and my sister as well. So shapeshifters are real. Coming from a person who grew up in different cities and then goes home to see her grandparents, you know, and seeing all that happen right before your eyes, yes, it's very real. I grew up in a Christian environment and I witnessed it firsthand. Thank you, YouTube. So like if you like. Thank you. Bye.